share a little bit about the purpose economy and why I believe Utah is poised to play a critical role in this new economy, this fourth economy in global history. Talking about my uncle's work that you mentioned earlier, Mark Peratt, who was an economist at Stanford, and in his dissertation coined the term information economy, which is the economy we sit in today, and he proved for the first time that the information economy was the dominant driver of innovation, growth, and the largest source of gross domestic product in the United States. This is something we now all sort of take for granted, that we're living in this economy. But in reading through his work, I came to understand the fundamental nature in which economies change. I think when you're sitting in the middle of something, you sort of assume it's always going to be like this, right? But in reading his work, I came to realize how this is really an evolutionary process, and how over millions of years, we transformed from apes to erect apes, right? This took millions and millions of years through evolution. But then we realized something as a species, which is that we're an impatient lot, right? We are an incredibly impatient set of animals. And as part of that, we weren't willing to wait millions and millions more years for evolution to take hold. And we said, we're going to hack, to use a Silicon Valley term, we're going to hack evolution, and we're going to speed this process up. And they created the agrarian economy. This was an economy that was about using animals, using the land, and it radically increased our quality of life and our life expectancy. It was an incredibly effective hack. But that wasn't good enough. We saw birds in the sky, and we said, we want to be able to fly. And we realized it would take millions, if not billions of years to grow wings. And we said, we're going to take matters in our own hands, and we again hacked evolution, and we created the industrial economy. We found ways to build factories, to build planes, to build cars. And again, we radically increased our quality of life and our life expectancy. It was another brilliant hack. But that wasn't good enough either. We said, I want to talk to someone in China right now, sitting in Salt Lake City. Again, how long would it have taken to evolve to the point where you'd be able to talk to someone in China sitting at your chair right now? If ever, right? But we, through the information economy, found ways to communicate across thousands and thousands of miles. We found ways to process information that we never would have been able to do just through biological evolution. We did a hack. And as an entrepreneur, as a futurist, as just a curious guy, it raised a really interesting question to me, which is, are we done? And I raise this question to all of you, just for your own thinking, as you think about the economy. You may or may not agree with my hypothesis about the answer, but I think it's a really important question. Are we done as a species hacking and evolving? Is the information economy, is the iPhone app the end of our progress as a society? Right? Is that the end? Or is there another era that is next? And if so, what could that era be? What would be the next organizing principle for innovation, growth, and vibrancy in our economy? That's sort of the second question. The third was, when is this change going to happen? And if you look at pattern recognition, Kurt's favorite word, you see that natural evolution took millions of years. The agrarian economy lasted thousands of years. The industrial hundreds. We're probably at the maximum 20 years away from fundamental shift, and as early as 10 years away. So in all of our working careers, we are going to see this shift from the information economy into the next economy. So to answer the question, what might the next economy be? And again, I don't have a crystal ball. I just connect the dots from what I see working around the world, working with CEOs, working with academics. What might the next economy be? And I went to sort of a very simplified version of how we might be thinking about hacking our condition here on this planet, which was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How many of you remember Maslow from Psych 101? Half of you. Kurt, we gotta improve education in Utah. Sorry. So, basic premise was, there are basic needs we have, and once we have those needs met, we start focusing on the next set, and the next set, and the next set, right? And if you look at the people who are creating economic growth, innovation, they're millennials for one, that are taking a huge part of the economy, and they're not focused on where is my next meal coming from, where am I gonna sleep tonight? The fundamental angst, the fundamental driver of thinking in the millennial generation within our cities is my life going to matter? Is my work going to have an impact? There's a fundamental anxiety about purpose. And that's why I believe that I look at the trends across where innovation is happening. As I meet with CEOs and talk about where they're going, it all comes back to purpose. So what is purpose? I have a longer presentation where I talk about a lot of the things that it's not. It's not about causes. It's not about what we traditionally think purpose is. The actual scientific definition of purpose comes down to three things. It's about relationships. We get purpose from each other. It's about doing something greater than yourself. It doesn't have to be a cause, it doesn't have to be a charity, but just doing something that's not just about you. And the third is from personal growth, when we grow as individuals, right? These are the things that create purpose. And these are the things, again, that companies, governments, etc., are investing in. This is what people are looking for in their work, in making workplace decisions. And this is what consumers are looking for increasingly. As products become commodities, purpose is becoming the special sauce, the thing that enables them to actually sell. So my grandmother escaped Nazi Germany back in the 30s and moved to Detroit. How many of you have been to Detroit? It's a different set than the first, interesting. Maybe Maslin needs to go to Detroit. So the Detroit that my grandmother described back in the day was a vibrant city, a city full of innovation. It was a city that was defining the economy. It was the place you went if you wanted to be on the cutting edge of industry, right? An incredibly vibrant city. But I went to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, God knows how many years later, 60 years later, and it was a very different city. This is the Detroit that I knew. And this is part of the natural cycle that you see with economies, where you see a city that is so successful that it gets caught up in its hubris. It gets caught up in its identity, and it gets caught up in one way of solving problems. Detroit's solution for every problem was an assembly line. Silicon Valley's solution for every problem is an iPhone app. We have the same fundamental trends going on in Silicon Valley today that you saw in the early decay of Detroit. And it sounds crazy. Like, you go to Silicon Valley right now, and the last thing you think of is, this is a place that's going to decay. It's so vibrant. It's so full of life. But so is Detroit. And it's the same fundamental variables. Silicon Valley got its start not because of a lot of things people think. Silicon Valley was successful because it got large military contracts and had really cheap land and it had a world-class university, right? One of those things is still true in Silicon Valley, right? It still has a world-class university. But a lot of the things that enable new innovation aren't possible anymore in Silicon Valley because they're priced out. So much of innovation isn't possible there anymore. So it raises the question that I've been going around meeting with mayors, governors, corporate leaders, and saying, let's stop trying to be the next Silicon Valley. You hear every city saying, we're the Silicon Prairie, we're the Silicon River, we're the Silicon Alley, right? You hear all these different words. Every city has like what Silicon thing they are. This is a fool's game. First of all, you're never going to beat Silicon Valley. And secondly, by the time you even started competing with them, it would no longer be the thing to be. Be like saying, I want to be the next Detroit, right? The trick is not to figure out what to do to keep up with Silicon Valley, but it's to figure out what is the next era, and how do you build your city to be a leader in that new economy. Stop trying to catch up with something that's not worth catching up with. Does that make sense? It's a fundamental shift in what we're doing. So, as I talked to Kurt, there's a lot of reason to believe Utah is poised to make this happen. Starting with the fact that land is actually much cheaper than Silicon Valley. But Utah is #1 in charitable giving. It's #1 in volunteerism. It has the youngest workforce in the country. More millennials that are driving this change work per capita here than any other region in the country. It's got a healthier workforce that's focused on health and is focused on well-being. Entrepreneurship has been written about many times being alive and well here, unlike anywhere else in the country. And the economic outlook here, by many measures, is much rosier than anywhere else in the country. So there's really no reason why Utah can't be, and Salt Lake City be, the new economic capital for this new economy. And we've been working together to say, how do we empower, how do we enable the people of Utah to not try to be Silicon Valley, but actually become the capital of the purpose economy?